Hi guys, and welcome to this video, which I think you will find very interesting. Now this is going to be a little bit different to your normal crypto video, full of euphoria and predictions on how many millions of dollars Bitcoin will get to very soon. This is going to be a bit of a dose of reality, and there's a few reasons why I'm doing this. So I'll try to keep this as quick as possible, but if you have any interest in blockchain or Bitcoin or smart contracts, I suggest that you give me 10 minutes of your time. I think this is going to be interesting. Now, as I said, in previous videos, I've talked about how the current state of Bitcoin is closely aligned to the following statement that Mahatma Gandhi made when fighting the British. First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. And for all those people who think that it's going to be so easy, we've hit the all-time high. Bitcoin clearly did not die. It's been called dead for a few times for many years, and it's just going to be smooth sailing from here on in as we go from 20k to 100k and higher, perhaps even 300k. Well, I don't think it's going to be that easy. And the reason is the fight is only just beginning. You see, during Bitcoin's previous three highs, the first two highs are probably the ignore you phase, where they dismissed it, nobody paid much attention to it. And if there was news coverage, it was called magic internet money. It was called something that criminals use on the dark web. Then they laughed at it. The previous bubble, which admittedly was a hell of a bubble in 2017. They called it tulip mania and various other things. And when the bubble burst early in 2018, they said that it was going to zero and it's over. It will just go down as a footnote in history. Okay, fair enough. But then Bitcoin survived. Now that we have institutional money coming in, Grayscale, MicroStrategy, Square, countries like Iran and Venezuela, and probably other institutions that aren't declaring it publicly yet. We've got their attention, and now I think that Bitcoin will enter the third part of the proverb that you see on screen. Then they fight you. And it's going to be bloody and it's going to be messy. Don't you think for a minute that this is going to be easy, because nobody is going to release control over a global reserve currency, a global store of value that easily. So let's take a look at this a little bit more further. Now, what we've seen over the past couple of weeks, got this here, we had the good news, which the typical YouTubers and Twitter bots and Twitter fans covered, all the great news about MicroStrategy and all the other institutions coming in. But what we've seen over the last couple of weeks is also some signs that the fight is really just beginning. First, we had that woman, not really a fan of hers, but there we go, Rashida Tlaib. Apologies if I mispronounced the name, but there's talk of this StableCoin Act. Now, Facebook renamed their Libra project to Deem, and immediately it got targeted. And this, let's just take a look at this, right? They introduced a new bill today, a proposed bill to protect consumers from risks associated with the growing cryptocurrency market in the US. So this is just a gentle first move, and we expect a lot more of these. Okay, now let's just talk about Tether. We've always known that Tether, gets printed a little bit too easily, and the crypto community gave it a bit of a pass. So the crypto community needs to come up with ways of preventing bad actors like this in the future, else you're just giving them ammo without affecting independence, decentralization and all of those things. But what's happening here, the first salvo, and there are three. There's comments made by the German finance minister recently. There's what's happening with the IMF, and I covered PayPal in the previous video, and I'll touch on PayPal last in case you've seen that video. Four of many that I'm expecting that will take place over the next 12 to 24 months, making it the most difficult period for Bitcoin. So this is opposite to what everybody else is telling you. Everybody else is telling you it's going to be so easy. We're just going to go from 20K to 200K. People are just going to buy Bitcoin and just sit back. I would like to be wrong. Okay, I'm going to say this a few times in this video. I would like to be wrong, but let's see what happens. So this will attack Tether, and we know Tether and stablecoins have been good for the crypto market in total. It provides on-ramps, off-ramps, it provides liquidity, all these things. But yeah, there have been question marks over Tether. If you dive a bit deeper, here's this guy, Rohan Gray. Rohan or Rohan. Rohan's the Indian version. He doesn't look Indian, but this guy's been a vocal opponent of Bitcoin for a long time. If you look at his bio, assistant professor, Willamette Law, and take a look at this, right? Willamette University College is a small, intimate, and intellectually challenging law school in Salem, Oregon. And then he's president of the Public Money, a student-driven initiative promoting public understanding of money, finance, law. Very innocent. Don't be fooled, right? So the gist of my video is that the crypto community needs to wake up. Stop being so naive. Stop thinking that it's just going to be so simple and so easy. The attacks haven't even started yet. Now, this guy proposed something worse than just the StableCoin Act. He proposed banning all Bitcoin nodes, all cryptocurrency nodes in the US. And of course, that's one way of stopping it. If you can't stop the internet, I don't know technically how he plans to actually do that. But the fact that somebody out there who comes from a small institution has this kind of influence. I also read, I think, that he's now an advisor to the Biden administration. He's working with some of the names mentioned there, Lynch, Garcia. I'll put out links and you can go and read up a bit about this. This is the first attack. The second attack, one of many, is a little bit more concerning, right? So I saw this on Seeking Alpha earlier today. We must do everything possible to make sure the currency monopoly remains in the hands of states. He calls it a monopoly, and this is from the German finance minister Olaf Scholz. Now, Germany is still a massively influential country, part of the EU, and this is the German finance minister. And he's basically saying that we're going to fight digital currencies, whatever, Bitcoin, pick your currency. There's strong support across the G7 on the need to regulate digital currencies, but they prefer to regulate it out of existence and then just issue CDBCs. Scholz on Facebook's entry Libra. A wolf in sheep's clothing is still a wolf. It's clear to me that Germany and Europe cannot and will not accept its entry into the market while regulatory risks are not adequately addressed. Now, we see banks working with Libra, and I thought that they would use Libra to take some of the liquidity away from decentralized projects and kind of support it. And then once they achieve their goal, they'd shaft Zuckerberg, and it seems like they're not even doing that. They just coming out strongly. Here's more on this. This is the article in Reuters today, and now they're openly saying that they're going to target anything that wants to pretend to be a currency, okay, and try and take it out. And obviously they've been talking in the G7. The G7 is a multilateral group. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Here is another tweet, right? The currency monopoly remains in the hands of the state. So while you've been making memes, while you've been talking about all-time highs, while you have been naive, this is what's going on out there. It's not just US congressmen, congresswomen, or whatever. It's now European officials. Let's see what Asia will do. The Chinese started issuing a CDBC run the other day. I didn't launch the article, but you've seen it. 10,000 vendors are supporting it already. China is, depending on who you believe and what stance you take, but generally they're an authoritarian state or a very tough state. They'll get their way in their country and their sphere of influence. Okay, these are massive warning signs. Now, some of you, and I did promise to do more macroeconomic videos. I haven't gotten around to it, but there's a very interesting book by James Rickards called Currency Wars. I highly recommend this if you have any interest in macroeconomics. A short summary: he speaks of how many years ago he did some work with the CIA. Now, I don't know if he is CIA or he just worked with the CIA, but the long and the short of it is that there are these currency wars that play out, and normally what they want is they want to devalue, because it gives them a trading edge. Your exports become cheaper. You can capture more of another country's market, not necessarily just your enemy, but even your friend. These currency wars sometimes happens between allies. That's the beauty of it, and it's ongoing. It happened during Obama's time. In Trump's time, we saw the trade war with China, and Trump was the first to not just look at a currency war, but putting up barriers to trade for Chinese goods imported into the US. However, the money printing obviously inflates the US currency. It also inflates the debt. So if I owe you $1 million and the value of the dollar goes down, in real terms, what I owe you as debt is actually a lot less. Now, what Jim also talks about is that, or James, sorry, he's sometimes known as Jim Rickards, the prize is the global reserve currency, and this is what the US had since the end of the Second World War. They're not going to get away from this or give this away very easily. Remember, the US dollar may not be backed by gold, but it is backed by the US military. And it's the number one thing that puts the US in a real position of power around the globe, the dollar as the global reserve currency. Now, proof of this is the fact that they will go to almost any lengths to protect this. I don't want to give too much away. Well, not give too much away. I don't want the CIA coming after me, but just investigate what happened to Gaddafi in Libya. Gaddafi actually wanted to create a gold-backed dinar and use that for regional trade. And that's one of the things that the US wasn't too happy about. Of course, if you want to earn dollars, if you're a small country, you need to trade with the US and its allies, and you need to be on good terms with them if you're going to trade with them. It's very simple. And I'm not saying this as somebody who doesn't live in the US. People in the US will say this. James Rickards, who worked with the CIA, will go into more details. Have a look at James's book. So if you thought that the fight was over simply because Bitcoin exists and has existed for 12 years and it survived 3 or 4 large crashes and many small crashes, you're just being naive like the rest of the crypto community, the crypto YouTubers who make videos every day with predictions. Is it 1 million today or is it 2 million tomorrow? And really that needs to stop, and people need to wake up and stop being so naive. A few other things before I move on to PayPal. You saw here, close some of these, the IMF. Now, I attended the IMF Great Reset New Bretton Woods online conference. I registered for it. I like to keep tabs on what they're doing, so I get a few of their mails. And take a look at this, right? They're talking, this is their Winter 2020 online magazine, right? Shaping a Data Economy. And it talks about robots, AI, the fourth industrial revolution, cross-border data flow, digital remittance mechanism. but not once does it talk about Bitcoin. They're not going to give it any recognition. The post-pandemic brave new world. Now, I won't talk too much in this video about the Great Reset, but many YouTube economists have spoken about this Great Reset and how it's probably something to be a little bit concerned about. And once again, here there's a little bit about policy and what's happened as a result of the coronavirus, and but none of this indicates acceptance of Bitcoin and public blockchains, reforms to the financial systems and tax rules to be less favorable to debt, more favorable to equity type funding. They're not even big on CDBCs. When I attended that online seminar of theirs, they spoke about CDBCs and the need to investigate it, but the feeling was, you know what, guys, we'll talk about it in the future. Give us another 3 or 4 years, and yeah, we're just looking at it now. But yeah, so they're not even too keen to move CDBCs along very quickly. China obviously is. And I was talking about multilateral trade. Now, the fact that we have large multilateral blocks makes it easy. If they pass the StableCoin Act, if that clown, whatever his name is, gains traction in terms of his proposal to ban Bitcoin nodes, they're going to pass these rules across these blocks. It's not like the old days where every country had what we call bilateral agreements with other individual countries. So it's more difficult to disrupt. Although they did disrupt gold, all the countries moved off the gold standard. What's interesting is, did you know that they even banned gold successfully, right? So after World War II, Franklin D. Roosevelt, FDR, worried about various things, and I'll do another video on this. He actually banned gold. You had to bring your gold in and you would be paid $20 an ounce. And the funny thing is that not long after, the price, I think, shot up to about $40, $45. You can double check that. And the dollars that you got immediately were deflated. And it's not just the US. Many don't know this, but Australia had this, and the UK as well. And both of those were only really lifted in the 70s. I think the UK had a limit. You could only own 4 gold coins as an individual, and you were banned from owning more than that. I'll find some links on that. So that's how they controlled gold. They're going to try and do something similar to Bitcoin, right? Because they're not going to give away the prize. And people need to start talking about this, the crypto community. So I'll come to the actions later on in this video. The other one is PayPal. So in my previous video, I was very skeptical on the PayPal announcements. Once again, the average YouTuber and Twitter guy, Bitcoin guy, was like, hey, PayPal adopts Bitcoin. I said, no, PayPal isn't adopting Bitcoin. You're not buying Bitcoin. You're buying a number in PayPal's database. Why? Because you can't withdraw the thing. You can't pay for it. It's quite ironic. You have a service called PayPal where you can't pay with an asset. So all you're doing is you're buying a number in their database, which is called Bitcoin. You're giving them your money for that token, PayPal token, which is called Bitcoin. And a couple of things. So I was even on a few forums where I stated this and people attacked me, right? But once again, it's because people are so naive. If things change, if they allow you to withdraw actual Bitcoin, that's a blockchain transaction, or if I can pay a vendor in Bitcoin and he can withdraw, then that is really upping the usage of Bitcoin and maybe Ethereum. There's a couple of other currencies as well. In that case, it could be very good. PayPal could be embracing blockchain and crypto. And I said that PayPal could be a better Lightning network if that happens than the actual Lightning network. You scale very quickly on PayPal CPUs, on PayPal's infrastructure, and there's just an off-ramp. If I withdraw, or if I pay somebody and he withdraws, there's an off-ramp onto the public blockchain. That could be very, very good for Bitcoin, right? If that is their intention. And it might just be that there's technical reasons why they haven't implemented it yet, or they're still trying to work out a few things, or they're trying to acquire many Bitcoin because they want to do full reserve. It'll never really be full reserve. It will be fractional reserve to a point. But let's look at my argument, which I didn't see anyone proposing. And once again, I'm saying it's due to naivety. If you were part of these governments and large banks and entities who stood to lose, and PayPal, think about it, was the entity that really stood to lose if crypto adoption took off. You wouldn't need PayPal anymore. You pick a crypto and you can send it in seconds anywhere around the world, okay, depending on the scale. What better way to disrupt, in addition to StableCoin Act and banning nodes and all of these things? Another lever you could pull would be to say, hey PayPal, could you do this for us, please? Could you take the liquidity out of the market? People that wanted to buy crypto, convince them to buy it on your platform. They're just buying a number on your database. And there's a whole bunch of new people that could theoretically go in to buy crypto. You vacuum up all of that money as well. Okay? And of course, it will never leave and it will never actually become crypto. Why? Because right now you can't withdraw and you can't pay. You can't do anything with it. You're just paying money to own a number on their system. I don't see the point of it. Okay? And if you're still challenging me on this, until things change, I'm holding my stance. You stop being naive and just wake up a little bit, please. Okay? And if I do that with PayPal and let's say 20 other vendors around the world, governments convince 20 of these companies, because these fintech companies are popping up all around the place, right? You've got the Chinese versions, you've got some in India, PayTM. Imagine what the impact would be to the liquidity. You would stop the money, or a large chunk of the money, entering the exchanges. You would convince people to not actually buy the real Bitcoin, the decentralized actual blockchain. Yes, you'd have to get it off the exchanges because exchanges themselves are a bit of a problem, a different problem. You would cause serious damage. And you might say, well, that's a conspiracy theory. Why would they do that? That's not the only attack. I said in the PayPal video, that is one attack. And now we're seeing these as well. And the attacks will continue for the next 2 years. Now, what's the impact? Let's move to the next section, right? And then I'll go to actions. Many people have been saying over the last few weeks that because the institutional money is coming in and everybody now can see that Bitcoin has such a big future, Ethereum as well, if we go from 20K to 100K, we may not drop back all the way down to 30K, 25K, because on the way down, we will have enough buyers. So we won't have this big crash. We might just have a small correction, and it's just going to be sweet and so easy over the next couple of years. But I'm saying these attacks are now going to commence, the real attacks. And what they will do is erode public trust again. Previously, we were convinced that it was only used by criminals to buy drugs on the internet. They'll get the media to up the negative coverage while either trying to get you to use PayPal or a CDBC in some countries, while making laws passed that make it really difficult. You don't want to be a criminal. You don't want to operate a node. Okay? It's going to be a really tough 24 months for Bitcoin. And I'm making this prediction and I'm the only one. Everybody else is so bullish. I don't believe that Bitcoin will fail ultimately. I think as Gandhi said, they will fight you, but you will win. But I'm saying, stop being so naive and stop being, so blind to what actually is happening. So what do we need to do? Well, I think you need to stop making memes and start upping the content. We need to promote nodes, running a node for your platform of choice. We need to have the facts. One thing that we need, I would like to see, is to stop some of the infighting, right? So I like Bitcoin and I like Ethereum. And those two groups are at each other's throats, the Bitcoin maximalists and the Ethereum guys. Let me tell you what's happening here. these guys are sitting back and they're looking at all the arguments you make as to why Bitcoin's bad. They're looking at all the arguments that he's making as to why Ethereum's bad, and they're taking those arguments, okay, and they're going to use them against you. So you're not helping yourself. Okay, healthy debate is actually very good, but constant schoolboy-like attacks with the memes thrown in, that needs to stop. And you might, if you've made it this far, you might disagree with everything that I've said, but I'm sticking to what I'm saying. We need to show the roadmap. We need to show the legalities. So the evangelists out there need to state the facts on Twitter and on YouTube. Yes, you can run a node. It's not illegal. You're just running an algorithm, and it's your hardware and it's your electricity. If you're spinning up nodes in the cloud, like on Azure or AWS, there's nothing wrong with it. There's been debate that too many of those nodes there. Somebody mentioned Ethereum had so many nodes on AWS. Okay, ideally you don't want that, so that's why convince people to run a node at home and earn staking rewards. It would be nice if the pro-blockchain people in government would speak up, but really it's going to be a very bumpy ride, I feel, over the next 24 months. I hope I'm wrong. This is one of those videos, like I said in my PayPal video, I hope I'm wrong. I'm saying this because I don't see anyone else saying it. I see blind optimism in terms of everybody else. Memes, Moon, Lambo, funny cartoons and things like that. Let's just grow up a little bit. And if you want this thing to succeed, at least some of us need to take a little bit of responsibility. So I'm going to stop there. And now that it's December and my workload is easing up a bit, I will do some videos on the economics, macroeconomic aspects that I mentioned, which I hope you'll find a little bit more interesting, right? So just in summary, the attacks are going to grow and grow over the next 24 months. I hope that I'm actually wrong, but just be aware. And I think it's not going to be a straight line up. I think when these attacks really get bad, you could see some massive dips and crashes as confidence is rocked. I think Bitcoin will prevail in the end, and let's just see what happens. So I hope you enjoyed that. Look out for my next video. If you enjoy this type of content where I'm not just putting out a meme video every day, I don't make a video every day, but I will make regular videos from time to time. So if you enjoy it, hit like and subscribe, and you can join the other 10 or so blokes who actually subscribe to my channel. Until next time, have a good day, and I'll see you guys very soon.